Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has certainly talked about and promised annexation of the settlements in the West Bank before, but never quite like this. In the past, he's talked with vague terms and general areas. Today, he put forward a specific map saying if he wins the election, if he gets a clear mandate from the public, he'll pursue annexation of not only the settlements, but also the Jordan Valley. He said it was the eastern border of Israel and that it's vital to Israel's security and for its strategic depth. But he made it clear that this was, at the top, essentially an election speech. He said, look, President Donald Trump's peace plan is coming forward soon, perhaps even right after the election. And for that, to handle that, who would you prefer handle that? Netanyahu or his rivals? There he said he is the only one that can handle it, and shortly thereafter he will immediately pursue, if he has a clear mandate from the public, annexation, Israeli sovereignty over the Jordan Valley, again calling it crucial for Israel's strategic needs. He did say that he wouldn't be annexing some of the major Palestinian areas there, such as Jericho and Ujah and some of the smaller villages there. He tried to hedge there, pointing out that Palestinians would have access to go whichever way they wanted, but if his plan were to come to fruition, they would be going through what Israel would consider sovereign Israel. You have to believe this was in coordination with President Donald Trump, who has been pretty quiet throughout most of this campaign. We will certainly look to see either a response from Trump himself or perhaps the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, or others who are working on the peace plan. What's new here is that Netanyahu was specific. He put out a map. He showed the Jordan Valley. He showed the Israeli settlements. And let's look at the context in which this happens. We are 1 week out from the Israeli elections. There are some polls that suggest Netanyahu might have fallen behind his main rival. And this is an attempt to kickstart the right-wing voter base. We'll see if Trump responds. That would certainly be a major political gift to Netanyahu to try to help him win the election, which we certainly saw before the last election in April. So we'll follow how this plays out and, of course, how it affects the voter base here. But crucially, Netanyahu going for that right-wing voter base, saying if he gets a clear mandate from the public, that he will pursue annexation of the Jordan Valley, again, calling it crucial for Israel's security needs, for its strategic needs, and other areas as well.
I look at these old veterans now, when they were young men, and of course we had many women serving as well in other branches at the time. What was it? What was it that made them special? What did we do as an army to make sure that they were well trained and well disciplined enough to fight and win on this day? And how can I take those lessons and apply them to today's service? And we're doing a lot of that now in the Army. We've extended our basic training for infantry to 22 weeks from 14. I now like to say it's the longest and toughest in the Army. We're modernizing the Army in all of our whole new generation of weapon systems. We're developing new doctrine. As I've been keen to say over the last many months, there is a renaissance underway in the Army as we shift to high-intensity conflict. And what I'm trying to do is capture all the lessons from the past, because I don't want to relearn them. I want to learn them now before we get into battle, because we may not have months or years to prepare in the future.
This is the face of a lucky dog, one of the survivors of the hell unleashed by Hurricane Dorian as it battered the Bahamas.
About 300 and some animals were here at the moment.
Felicia is the shelter supervisor who, along with 5 colleagues, tried to keep safe 300 dogs and 100 cats, most of them waiting to be adopted, but some already had families who had been forced to evacuate.
The government-run shelters will not allow pets.
Elizabeth Barrows, executive director of the Humane Society of Grand Bahamas, trusted this building, built in 2008 with some elevation to avoid floods.
And since we didn't flood in the other storms, we really felt we might get some water, but we had no idea we would get the flood that we did.
But the water from the storm surged unexpectedly, threatening the lives of the animals, and in spite of the danger to themselves, Felicia and her co-workers desperately tried to save the dogs by keeping their crates above the rising waters.
The water was about this high when we was doing this.
With the water now chest high and their building flooding, they sought shelter.
Making sure that everything we could have saved to try and put it up high, and we went up in the manhole because the water started to come up so high.
The manhole is the access to the attic, which had no stairs, so they had to pull each other up.
As the kennel dogs, them were still howling and crying. We experienced all of that until they were not even crying anymore.
That silence represented the death of more than 220 dogs and 50 cats.
I feel devastated. We couldn't have predicted this, but I still feel responsible. My heart is broken for the shelter animals that we lost, and I feel so bad for the people who entrusted their animals to us, and ultimately we couldn't protect them.
Dorian also destroyed their medical equipment, food, medicine, and vehicles. In spite of their near-death experience, Felicia says she doesn't regret risking her life.
It wasn't about us being heroes, it was about us caring about the animals just as much as we cared about ourselves.
Gustavo Valdez, CNN, Freeport, the Bahamas.